Hey folks, good afternoon and welcome to this special edition MC Commute, coming to you live from the official North American press introduction of Yamaha's 2021 MT-09. So without further ado, let's swing a leg over and see what it's like to ride. Well folks, here we are at the official North America press introduction for the 2021 Yamaha MT-09, previously known as the FZ-09, but Yamaha changed the name to MT to better align it with the world market. MT stands for Master of Torque. And Yamaha has totally revised this MT-09 for the 2021 model year. 90% of the components on this vehicle are new, says Yamaha. Let's set it up to our settings. This is a nice, beautiful color TFT display. I wish it was bigger, but we'll get to that here in a minute. You go into that little sprocket. You can change everything. I've set up my stuff. Traction control, least restrictive 1. Slide control, least restriction 1. Wheelie control, Yamaha calls it lift control, off. And that is the settings we have for this bike. Now, Yamaha's done a lot of cool upgrades on this motorcycle. Let's start with the electronics. Now, the traction control, slide control, ABS, brake control is all powered by a new 6-axis IMU. This is the same type of chip that Yamaha's YZF R1 started using for the 2015 model year. The physical size of the chip is half the size of that original processor, though. You have to remember that was introduced 6 years ago. So obviously the size of technology is going to shrink with the years, just due to technological updates. So this motorcycle has IMU powered vehicle dynamics. So what that does is it gives the motorcycle positional awareness in terms of pitch. So pitch front back, lean, roll, right left, and yaw, right left. So 6 axes of vehicle information that feeds the ECU and applies correction if certain settings, if the threshold has been surpassed in terms of traction, brake pressure, and all that kind of stuff. So very neat electronics. It's cool that this stuff trickles down to the 2021 MT-09, and it trickles down relatively unfiltered. Of course, the actual programming is going to be unique for the MT-09. It's not going to be the same programming as the YZF R1, but still same electronics, same basic componentry. So good job, Yamaha. It's really cool. We talked about the electronics. It's all managed through this color display. I wish it was a little bit bigger. You know, I like the fonts. They're nice and sharp. They're easy to read, but the actual display could be bigger. Now you can work the display settings with Yamaha's proprietary switchgear, which is used again on its YZF R1 for some time now. The switchgear works good. It's pretty easy to figure out how to set up the bike and work the menu system. To be fair, I've had a lot of experience with the R1, so I'm really familiar with how it works. But even if you didn't, it is almost like BMW's multi-wheel, this menu rotational switch here. So very easy to adjust the settings. Right now we have the vehicle in TCS mode 2, which is a global setting. You can switch that, which allows you to change the D mode. D mode is Yamaha's combined throttle and engine power map. So 1 is the most aggressive, 4 is the least. Yamaha has done a really good job with its ride-by-wire. You have to remember, Yamaha was an early innovator in ride-by-wire throttle. YCCT Yamaha chip controlled throttle. I think that debuted, if I remember correctly, on the 2007 R1 or 2006 R6, one of the two. But Yamaha's been doing it for a very long time. Recently, with the 2020 YZF R1, they fitted a new throttle control system that actually removes the cable. Previously, the cable would go to a sensor and the sensor would feed the throttle bodies. Now there's no cable at all. It's just pure full chip mode. And Yamaha's throttle response has come a long ways. Even in this aggressive setting, D mode 1, the engine is very easy to control. It has good feel. You really feel connected to the engine when you're twisting the throttle. Now, of course, the dynamic of Yamaha's CP3 inline-3 engines are awesome because they always put out a lot of torque and they have really good direct feel and they really jive with the rear tire very well. So you have good traction, good torque, good rear tire feel. For 2021, Yamaha's actually bumped up the displacement of its CP3 engine. It goes from 847cc to 890cc via a 3mm longer piston stroke. Yet despite that added piston stroke, the height of the engine is unchanged. They reworked some components and were able to get that extra stroke, yet not add any height to the engine, which is awesome for packaging concerns. The crankshaft is a little bit heavier too now, so the bike has more torque feel. First and second gear are a tad taller, and the clutch mechanism has been reworked to give a little bit lighter feel. I still like the progressive feel of this cable actuated clutch. It's not too firm and it's not too wimpy. A couple years ago, all the manufacturers were looking for real light clutch lever pulls. They'd put these really wimpy, almost Matchbox toy-like cable actuated clutches on their bikes, and I dislike them so much. I always like a clutch has a good weighted feel, and this clutch has a good weighted feel. So good job to Yami on that. Back to the engine, 890 cc's of displacement, and this engine it is awesome. It has so much torque. I love how much torque this engine has. It just allows you to just get off the line so fast. It just wants to wheelie, and not only that, it just sounds so awesome. These i3s they deliver a acoustic note like nothing else in the world. Yamaha added real air intakes to the airbox. So before the MT-09 had Fox air intakes, these two right here in front of the fuel tank are real, and that not only feeds the engine with more air, but it has this nice induction roar. It's not quite as loud as other manufacturers' induction roar, aka Kawasaki, but it still is a nice touch. And realistically, this engine, it feels and sounds and acts so similar to the Hinkley brand's 765 i3. But in a way, I would say this engine's even better because it vibrates less. The Hinkley brand's i3, in top gear at 60 miles per hour, the engine's got some buzz to it. Not saying that this engine doesn't have buzz, because it does, but it's much more calculated and refined buzz. Triple disc hydraulic brakes keep speed in check with multi-level ABS control. We are riding in brake control setting 1, which is the least restrictive setting. In brake control mode 1, there is no cornering ABS functionality. So if you want cornering ABS functionality, you have to have the vehicle in brake control mode 2. Chassis on this motorcycle, Yamaha did quite a bit of work on the chassis. The frame's new, the swing arm's new, suspension's new. Now, what Yamaha's purpose was in this whole redesign was to give added rigidity. They wanted this bike to have more sporting appeal in the turns, less flex, more road feel, and they've done a really nice job with that. Riding this motorcycle, the previous MT-09 I always liked, and they've been progressively making it a little bit stiffer and stiffer and stiffer, but this 2021 bike really has that sport bike like rigidity where you really have good feel and good control when you're riding this thing. It doesn't feel so pogo-y and so wimpy, but at the same time, when you're hitting larger bumps and broken pavement, you definitely feel that more so than you did on the old bike. At least since last time I rode this bike. It's been 4 years since I rode the old version, so maybe my memory is failing me, but I remember the old bike had a little bit better flex characteristic over bumps, but that would make sense with Yamaha's more rigidity goal. But again, this bike isn't too rigid for it to be uncomfortable on the street. It still has good compliance. I like the way the suspension moves in its stroke. Again, the damping is well supported, doesn't get pogo-y, just gives you really good control. The Bridgestone Batlax S22 tires work really good with this chassis. I love Bridgestone's new Batlax tires, the S21 kick butt, and now they have the S22, which kicks even more butt. So definitely a good tire combination for good grip, good agility, good overall road comfort. With a full tank of fuel, this motorcycle weighs 417 pounds. That's about 8 pounds less than the outgoing MT-09. And this motorcycle is very agile. Goes where you want it to go, holds the line really well. The ergonomics, I like the ergonomics on this motorcycle. I like how slim the bike feels between your legs. The tank is very wide right here, which makes it feel like a real premium but big bike. But where your knees slot in, the bike feels very narrow between you. And there's a good grip point with your knees. So when you're giving her the beans or getting on the brakes, you have good control. The rider's foot pegs, they aren't too high, they aren't too low. Yamaha engineered a level of adjustability into the foot peg so you can actually move them a little bit higher if you're dragging them going around turns. I like my foot pegs on the low side just because I have long legs and my knees always hurt, so I would prefer the foot pegs in the lower or OE setting. The handlebar can also be tweaked via this clamping system, so you can reconfigure that based on your needs. The handlebar itself, it feels pretty modern. It doesn't have a crazy amount of rearward sweep. There definitely is some rearward sweep, but it's not at the same level as some of the older style naked bikes. At the same time, I wish this handlebar was a little bit wider. It's pretty narrow. Still, because this bike is so maneuverable, so light, it's still very agile, but maybe a little bit wider handlebar would be something I like. Other than that, it is very nice. These rear view mirrors do a good job of showing what's going on behind you. And nice crisp LED lighting with Yamaha's transformer-like MT logo in the tail light is apparent. So not only is it functional, but it looks very cool too, and stays in line with Yamaha's Dark Side of Japan branding. Now, the wheels on this motorcycle, the wheels use a new manufacturing technique that Yamaha has begun employing. They have a new process where they actually spin aluminum and forge it. So it's one piece. So the exterior of the aluminum wheel is one piece. And the spin forging process allows the wheel to be manufactured using less material. That means it's lighter. Each wheel's right around a pound less than the previous cast aluminum wheel section. It's still worth noting that the hubs of the wheels still are manufactured using a casting, and they have to be done that way because it's a more complicated piece. So almost a hybrid of a wheel design, but lighter is always better with wheels. You want a light wheel. Less reciprocating mass makes the bike stop, go, and turn that much more quickly. Now, an electronic up and down quick shifter manages the 6-speed transmission, and I wish the quick shifter was a little bit faster. It's not so bad going up, but the downshift function is a little bit delayed. Would be pleased if Yamaha could speed up the programming on that. I like the electronic quick shifters to be very, very sharp and very fast in action, but for whatever reason they wanted it to be a little slower. But you can always tune that via an aftermarket solution if you wanted to go that route. Geez, this bike has great handling. I love how good this thing handles. Not only that, the sound. Realistically, this bike feels very, very similar to the modern 765, only with much better electronics and much better ergonomics. So you can really see who the Tuning Fork brand was baselining for this MT-09. They've done a really good job. And the price, $9,400. It's only $400 more than the 2020 MT-09. You get a lot of bike, a lot of electronics, a lot of features for your $9,500 with this bike. And this thing just eats up road. Now Yamaha will be releasing its SP MT-09 variation later on this year. The SP variation adds a higher spec KYB fork, Oline shock, different colors, and cruise control. So expect to see that bike later on this year. Alright folks, we have to wrap it up now. We are about to take part in our photo shoot with the California Highway Patrol, so we're going to sign off for now. We'll wrap things up in a little bit. Well folks, there it is, Yamaha's 2021 MT-09 Masters of Torque naked bike. This bike is awesome. Not only does it look cool, it is loaded with technology, and it is a much more refined third generation MT-09. It sounds more awesome, has more power, has better handling, is still comfort, is equipped with modern and functional rider safety aids, has good brakes, and only costs $9,400. If I was in the market for a new mid-sized plus naked bike, I absolutely would be looking at this machine. It just brings tremendous value and quality and legendary reliability and durability that only the tuning fork and Big Red can offer. So good job to Yamaha. Make sure to log on to motorcyclistonline.com to read my content. Subscribe to the Motorcyclist Mag YouTube channel to see more videos, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, everybody.